So, usually when I give some teaching or lecture on Buddhism, at the beginning of each session, at the beginning of each session or each day, also some chanting. Now today is the first session, first day, so the basis of Buddhadharma, or foundation of Buddhadharma, is the Pali tradition. So usually, you see the Mangalam Sutra recite. So now this moment, the bhikshus from Pali tradition or Theravada tradition, they're going to recite the Mangalam Sutra. Yes.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Evam me sutang ekang samayam bhaga Savatiyang viharati jetavane anatha pindik arami athako anyatara devata abhikantaya abhikantavanna kevala kappanjetvanang obhaset yena bhagavate upasankamitva bhagava abhivadetva ekamantang athat ekamantang tithako sadevata bhagavan gathaya ajbhasi bahudeva manussa mangalani achintayung akankamana sottana bruhi mangalamuttamang asevanacha balanam pandadananda sevana puja cha pujaniyanang etam mangalam Patirupadesa vasoca pubbeca kata punya atta samma panidica etam mangalamuttama bahu saccanca sippanca vinayoca susikkito subhasitaca yavaca etam mangalamuttama mata pitu upadhanam puttadarasa sanggao anakulaca kammanta etam mangalamuttama dananca dhammacariyaca nyatakananca sanggao anavajjani kammani etam mangalamuttama arati virati papa majjapanaca sanyamu apamadoca dhammesu etam mangalamuttama garavo च निवातो च सन्तुष्टे च कालेन धम्म सवनं एतं मङ्गलमुत्तमम् तीच सोवचसता समनानां च दस्तनं कालेन धम्म साकच्चा एतं मङ्गलमुत्तमम् तपोच ब्रह्मचर्यं च आर्यसत्यान दस्तनं निब्बान सच्चिकिरिया च एतं मङ्गलमुत्तमम् पोट्टास लोकधम्मेहि चित्तं सनकम्पति अशोकं विरजं खेमम् एतं मङ्गलमुत्तमम् एतादिशानि कृत्वा सब्बतमपराजिता सब्बत सोत्तिं गच्छन्ति तेषां मङ्गलमुत्तमम् एतेन सच्चवाज्येन होतु ते जयमङ्गलम् एतेन सच्चवाज्येन होतु ते जयमङ्गलम् एतेन सच्चवाज्येन होतु ते जयमङ्गलम्.
Thank you. Now next, Sanskrit. No, only one person. So the Sanskrit Buddhadharma is the root of Chinese Buddhism, and then through China, Korean Buddhism, Japanese Buddhism, Vietnamese Buddhism, and also the Tibetan Buddhism, and Mongolian, and further north, some republics in Russian Federation, and then whole the Himalayan range Buddhist tradition, all originally come from Sanskrit. So, or the text, what's the most important sort of text in the Sanskrit sort of text is Prajnaparamita Sutra. So there are many texts, some are very long, some are shorter. Now this is one of the short, or say, Prajnaparamita Sutra. Usually, all the Buddhist countries who follow Sanskrit tradition, practically all is recite by heart. Whether they know the meaning or not, is a different question. But everybody recite that. So.
Om Anirodham Anutpadam Anuchadam Ashashvatam Anikartham Anartham Anagmamam Anirgamam Yah Pradita Samutpadam Prapanchopashmam Shivam Teshyama Sambhastam Vande Vadatavarnam Pragyaparamita Hridaya Sutram Sankshipti Matrika Namah Sarvyaya Aravlokiteshvara Bodhisattva Gambhirayang Pragyaparamita Charyang Charmano Vavlokiti Sma Panskandaha Tashang Sabha Shunyan Pashati Sma Yeshariputra Rupam Shunita Shunita Varupam Rupan Pratak Shunita Shunitayana Pratak Rupam यद्रूपं स शून्यताय शून्यता तद्रूपम् एवमेव वेदना संज्ञा संस्कार विज्ञानानि यह शौर्यपुत्र सर्वधर्माः शून्यता लक्षण अनुत्पन्ना निरुद्धा अम्लान विम्लानो नाना परिपूर्णः तस्माच्चौर्यपुत्र शून्यतायां न रूपं न वेदना न संज्ञा न संस्कारा न विज्ञानानि न चक्षुश्रोत्रघ्राण जीवा काया मनासिं न रूप शब्दगन्धस्य स्पष्टवैधर्माः न चक्षुर्धातुर्यावन्मनोधातु न विद्या न विद्या न विद्याक्षयो न विद्याक्षयो यावञ्जरामणं न जरामणं च न दुःखसमुदय निरोधमार्गा न ज्ञानं न प्राप्तिवं बोधिसत्त्वस्य प्रज्ञापारमितामाश्रित्य विहरति चित्तावरणः चित्त आवरणनास्तित्वात्रस्तो विपर्यसातिक्रान्तो निष्ठनिर्वाणः त्रयदैवसताः सर्वबुद्धाः प्रज्ञापारमितामाश्रित्य अनुत्तरां सम्यक् सम्बोधि अभिसम्बुधाः तस्मात् ज्ञातव्य प्रज्ञापारमिता महामन्त्रो महाविद्यामन्त्रो अनुत्तरमन्त्रो असंसम्मन्त्रः सर्वदुःखप्रशमनः सत्यमित्यत्वात् प्रज्ञापारमितायां मुक्तो मन्त्रः तथा गते गते पारसंगते बोधि स्वाहा तथा गते पारसंगते बोधि स्वाहा तथा गते पारसंगते बोधि स्वाहा यदि प्रज्ञापारमिता हृदयसूत्रं समाप्तम् प्रज्ञापारमितं बोधो शुभरत्नाकरे स्वयं सर्वपारमितास्तत्र तदात्मनं व्यवसिताः निष्प्रपञ्चा निराभाषा निर्विकल्पा निरालया निस्वभावा परा सूक्ष्मा बिन्दुनाद विवर्जिता प्रज्ञापारमितां माता सर्वबुद्धोदया परा त्राणुपलब्धिरूपा सर्वज्ञानगोचरा निरालम्बा पदे प्रज्ञा निरालम्बा महाकृपा एकीभूता देया साधर्म गगने गगनं यथा.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So recent years, whenever we recite Sanskrit, sort of Panchaparamita Sutra, only this person. So I very much appreciate. Then also I have to sort of, also appreciation. I must thank, or I must express appreciation. He's sort of always available, recite Sanskrit sort of Heart Sutra, because he ordained from me. So my good disciple. So when disciple do something good, the guru must appreciate. Now our turn, Tibetan, not complete one, just the Rahul, Buddha's own son. You see, he his word was praising Prajnaparamita. One very short. Masam jeme shiro parje maje menga nage mo so so rang re shi shi jusum jave yong wa cha cha lo. Now the mantra of the Heart Sutra, that also is common everybody. Daya tha gade gade para samgade buddhi so daya tha gade para samgade buddhi so daya tha gade para samgade buddhi so. Now the jizu shambang ubo da shijingi shungi Badung Manda Jimbata, Mother Tuni Jimbas Nietzsche. That Badung Manda Jimbati, six cell, chick tag and the Gubuchamache. 제가 이니 잠배 한다 시진기 배동문도 그 림바 싸울던데 시진 몸부터 괜사 몸도 괜사 디체주디 직dim이 되네 디슈고데 뭐든 동리 그 림바 디또 샌드위치네 마 수면디 뱅고하고 루루샤데 그래 저는 뱅고하고 루루기 아니 우마사시르고 체주디셰 디유는 유된데
In the tradition of interpreting the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras, the Heart Sutra being a principal example of that, they evolved an approach where we read the explicit subject matter of these sutras, which is particularly the teaching on emptiness, and then the implicit subject matter of these sutras, which are the stages of the path that are embedded in these scriptures. And with relation to these two aspects of the content or teaching of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras, they evolved two main traditions. One coming from Maitreya, who was principally the master expounding the implicit subject matter, the stages of the path. And the other great master was Nagarjuna, who was principally in charge of expounding the explicit subject matter of these sutras, which is emptiness. And the tradition is to acknowledge these. So in my teachings, I also acknowledge them by chanting salutation verses from the two important texts. One is the Ornament of Clear Realization by Maitreya, and the other one is the Fundamentals of the Middle Way, which is Nagarjuna's text on emptiness.
Now, as a preparation of Kalachakra initiation, usually I give some explanation about Buddhadharma, and particularly the two practice. One, infinite altruism. One, the understanding of emptiness, shunyata. Because without these two things, you cannot receive initiation. Of course, physically we can attend, but actually impossible to receive the initiation. So, at least those people who are going to receive that initiation, you should have some sort of feeling. And in order to develop some feeling of these two things, firstly, you should know. Without knowing, how can develop the real feeling or real sort of deeper sort of experience? So therefore, whenever I give some teaching, I always explain these two things. Then again, in order to follow Buddhadharma, like any other religion, I believe, firstly, we should know what is the system which later you develop belief or faith. So without knowing the meaning or the system, then it is wrong to say, oh, my family belongs to this religion, that religion, so I'm a follower of that religion. It is too simple. That kind of faith is very superficial faith. With superficial faith, not much effect on our emotion. In order to transform our mind, our emotion, you should be serious. In order to develop seriousness about one's own faith, you should know the system or the real teaching. So as far as Buddhism is concerned, I usually is telling Buddhist people from Buddhist countries like Chinese or Tibetan or some others, we should be 21st century Buddhist. 21st century Buddhist. That means fuller knowledge about sort of modern thing. Meantime, the equally fuller knowledge about Buddhism. That I consider 21st century Buddhist. So our old-fashioned, just faith, pray, without knowing the meaning, or recite Buddham Shanam Gajami, Dhammam Shanam Gajami, Sangham Shanam Gajami, but without knowing what is Buddha, what is Dharma, what is Sangha. So therefore, we must study what is Buddhism. And through study, gain fuller knowledge about Buddhism. Then, if you really feel that way of approach is something effective, something suitable for me, then follow that religion. So other tradition also, I feel, particularly like Hinduism, the philosophical field, very rich. Nowadays, many Hindus just simply recite a few shlokas in Sanskrit without knowing the meaning, isn't it? Like we Tibetan also, you see, recite some sutras, but without knowing the meaning. And Japanese, Chinese as well. Some my friend, you see, they frankly you see, express to me, we also recite certain sutras, but without knowing the meaning. So that is old-fashioned. Now, today's world, we must be realistic. So in order to be realistic in the field of religious faith, first we should know the system. And particularly Buddhism, say Buddhist tradition, usually I sort of explaining this way. Buddhist practice or Buddhism start from human level, then like Gade, Paragade, Parasamgade, Buddhi Saha, then Buddhahood. So therefore, present our sort of condition or situation is the basis of Buddhism. On that reality, then some is the concept sort of concluded. That's Buddhist philosophy. Like impermanence, momentarily changing. It's based on actually things are momentarily changing. On that basis, on that reality, the concept of impermanence developed. And then reality, everything interdependent, interconnected. The very nature of the existence is dependent on one another. So the absence of independent existence, that reality, according to that reality, Buddhist concept, emptiness, come. So, on the basis of reality, then that is, I call science, Buddhist science. External, science of external things, science of internal things. That's simply science. On that level, no question which is right, which is wrong, which is good, which is bad. No, just simply, what is? This is Buddhist science. On that level, then construct Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist concept. Yeah. Then that level, some extent, now the distinction, the good, positive or negative, based on the including animal, we want happiness. We do not want suffering. So suffering and happiness both are among the phenomena which is momentarily changing. So it must be based on causes and conditions. So therefore, since we want happiness, joyfulness, we must know the causes of that. And we have to practice, implement that. Since the causes and conditions, fully,
Ripe.
right? Then result, joyfulness, happiness come. So since we do not want suffering, problem, so we must know the causes. And since we do not want the suffering, so we must restrain involving causes of the suffering. So that is the very idea of Four Noble Truths. We do not want suffering. So Buddha point out the causes of suffering. We want permanent happiness. That is cessation of suffering. That third noble truth. That also come through effort. So fourth noble truth come. The Buddhist term say law of causality. And the Paticamupad.
Dependent origination.
Ah.
Dependent origination.
Then the further investigation. What is the ultimate source of suffering? The Buddhists say ignorance. It's quite logical. We do not want suffering, but we are facing a lot of suffering. This suffering caused by your own action. So nobody, no sentient being, deliberately commit these causes of suffering. So logically, ignorance. So then, of course, ignorance, there are many different levels of ignorance. Basically, two kinds of ignorance. One ignorance, just a mere ignorance. Another category of ignorance is distorted ignorance. So here, mere ignorance also causing, but mainly distorted ignorance. That is the main thing. So now question is whether there is antidote of that distorted ignorance or not. If there's no antidote, opposition sort of force there, then no possibility to overcome. The further investigation, what kind of ignorance? Whether there is, because the opposite understanding there or not. And then further investigation. Ignorance or awareness, both part of mind. Like anger, compassion, part of mind. Anger, compassion, opposite. same time, same object, they feel compassion or sense of concern, of well-being, or sense of hatred cannot go together because these two things are opposite. So fundamental ignorance, if there's no opposite awareness, then no possibility to overcome that ignorance. But there is sort of directly opposed sort of force there. Now further question, whether these kind of distorted ignorance can eliminate or not. That's the serious question. If ignorance, including distorted ignorance, is part of mind, there's so long mind there, this ignorance always remain there. But that's not the case. The mind, the very nature of mind is just pure, neutral. So can influence positive emotion, negative emotion. Essentially remain separate entities, like that. So through that reasoning, the possibility not only reduce negative, destructive emotion, but also it's possible to eliminate. So that's the concept of nirvana, moksha, liberation. So that's goal. So, and finally, nirvana, the final nirvana is Buddhahood. So once we develop some kind of idea, or the Buddhahood, that's our final sort of destination, final goal. And also the quite clear sort of knowledge how to reach there step by step. On the basis of today's ignorant mind, with help of wisdom, with help of other sort of positive emotion, this very mind can change, can improve, finally can be Buddha's mind. Then we develop some kind of genuine enthusiasm to follow or to practice Buddhadharma. Otherwise, I usually teasing some my friend who looks very religious minded. So always pray to Lord, offering to Lord. But meantime, they quite often also involve corruption. So that's a big contradiction. If you really believe Lord or Buddha or Lord Shivaji or God or Allah, you must be honest, because God always told us, be compassionate, be honest, be truthful. So if you really worship, pray to that, then you must follow that. I think there is danger. Even Buddhists also, you see, pray to Buddha in order to success my wrongdoing, in order to success my corrupt sort of work. How can? I think if you pray to Buddha, if Buddha have sort of power, I think if you more pray to Buddha in order to success my wrongdoing, I think Buddha give you more punishment. If you really, is it unavoidable, commit corruptions, wrongdoing, then better to stop your practice of Dharma. If you really follow Dharma, then you should lead your life according to Dharma. Isn't it? So sometimes I jokingly telling my Indian friend, basically, Indian nation more religious-minded. So practically, I think many people, all level, carry some puja, worship. I'm quite sure those corrupted ministers, corrupted politicians, I think they also daily worship, I think they may do. So indirectly, they worship or pray to Lord in order to cover up their wrongdoing. So like that. So therefore, these are lack of fuller knowledge, fuller sort of conviction or seriousness about one's own sort of faith. We simply carry as a sort of tradition or fashion. That's wrong. We must be realistic. Then, as far as Tibetan Buddhism is concerned, I emphasize we must return the original Sanskrit Nalanda tradition. That's very important. Some of our practice, some of our tradition in Tibet, with too much emphasis about because of the external things, like instrument, because of horns are horns or some kind of these instrument without knowing. And also we, for example, you see, every day we chanting or recite several sort of, I think they few hundred pages, but sometimes without knowing the meaning. So these are old-fashioned. Now we must be 21st century Buddhist. So whether you have interest or not, I always see, try to explain what's Buddhism. That's very important. Then the other day I mentioned briefly, I noticed, I think in 60s, I think 60s, 67, 66, 67, I think around that period, my first visit to Singapore and Malaysia, then also Thailand. So one occasion in Singapore, I noticed some short sort of blessing according to Tantrayana. So before that blessing, I explained something about Buddhism. The audience seems no interest. Some go to sleep. Then the actual sort of ceremony start. Everybody very much full attended. This is wrong. So among Tibetan also, so when they heard, oh, some initiation there, particularly Kalachakra initiation there, then many people showing interest. The other hand, if you see someone is told, someone telling, oh, there is sort of session, explanation about Buddhism, then people may say, oh, very nice, but I'm quite busy doing this and that, like that. I think that kind of habit is, I think, outdated habit. If you're serious, then practice. If you're not serious, don't practice. That's much better. Otherwise, it's hypocrisy, like that. So, in any way, first announce Kalachakra initiation. Then a lot of people come. And the actual people get it. My main focusing is explanation about Buddhadharma. So here, a little trick showing Kalachakra initiation may emphasize explanation. So now, firstly, I want to explain because of the broad picture way, broad picture. The desire, achieve happiness, or desire happiness, and desire to overcome suffering, always there. Even animals also have that. Then, I think humanity, in human history, eventually our intelligence have the sort of ability to find some new things, not on the level of sensorial experience, but a little further more, further deeper. So I think 4,000, 5,000 years since we invented faith, believe some mysterious force. When we're passing through difficulties which beyond our control, then the idea, faith to mysterious force, that provide us hope, keep hope. In spite of some difficulties, but still believe something. That give us hope. So, last, I think 4,000 to 5,000 years, faith really worked among humanity. Then, I think philosophical field also, sometimes some mysterious things happen. Then they try to find answer. That's mysterious things. I think ancient time, lightning, something mysterious. So, traditionally, mysterious force in sky, that kind of thing. Through that way, few thousand go like that way. Then last about 300 years, science, technology develop. Then those things which we previously, those things which we want, but beyond our ability, so just through prayer to materialize some of the things which we want, including health. Now science and technology develop. After that, you see, there are many things which we previously based on faith or prayer. Now that immediately you see bring because of the positive result. So naturally, people incline about I'm interested about science and technology. Then less sort of interest about religious tradition. However, later part of 20th century, one, scientific research really developed higher and higher or deeper, particularly the brain sort of science. Then they develop interest about emotion, about mind, and relation, brain particles or neurons and the mind or emotion, these things. So that lead, even among the scientists, scientific field. Previously, mind, even some scientists, some I think radical materialistic scientists, even reject existence of mind. Now that gradually changing. And then other hand, those society or individual family, materially, everything, very rich, all the facilities there. However, many of them mentally unhappy, a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, a lot of distress. And also modern society, all the material facilities there, but the mental problems there, sometimes increasing, including loneliness, or sometimes too much, the frustration, so relying on drugs. So like that. And then alcohol. These are the clear signs mentally unhappy. So since they fail to bring certain sort of countermeasure about these mental problems within mind, so they rely on external means, drugs, alcohol, like that. Then when these methods fail, and then suicide. The rate of suicide, also sometimes the material affluent sort of society, the cases of suicide also you see they are increasing. So therefore, two factors. Scientific field also you see develop some sort of interest. What is mind? What is the relation, brain and mind, emotions? And then medical field, science also you see now develop sort of the awareness, peace of mind is very good for health, very important for health. Too much anxiety, too much anger, very bad for our health. So through that way, they develop interest how to keep calm mind. So later part of 20th century began to show some interest about mind. And then also you see about the subjects such as compassion, forgiveness, tolerance. And also now these moral crises directly related with spiritual principles. Moral principle. Moral principle is you cannot buy from market or cannot produce by medicine and cannot make by law, regulation. Increase the forces of police cannot bring moral principle. Moral principle out of fear is very temporary. Moral principle with conviction, then it really develop. So actually, even it's a good system, like India, very good system, very good tradition. And also America, very good tradition, very good system. But people who involve these systems, lack of principle, then without self-discipline, corruption, always possible. So self-discipline, not watching outside, but within ourselves, self-discipline is the real answer to create clean society. The self-discipline will not bring by force, but by kasota moral principle. So here also, you see the significance of different sort of spirituality now becoming some relevant. So now, about religion now. Of course, according to Indian tradition, at least last 3,000 years, the concept of secularism there. According to Indian sort of secularism, right? The idea or view of the secularism, according to Indian tradition. One time, the Dr. Advani, one of the former Deputy Prime Minister of Government of India, one time, I know him very well. So one time we just with casual talk, he mentioned the India, 1,000 years, this tradition, in philosophical viewpoint, among the different sort of philosophical viewpoint, one was the school of thought, actually nihilism, denying existence of higher being or God or Buddha or next life or law of causality, simply things, kasota, exist on what we see, what we can touch. Beyond that, nothing. So that, the Sanskrit word they call Charvaka school of thought, nihilism. So Dr. Advani used to told me, so in ancient time, so last almost 3,000 years, you see the rest of the school of thought criticize about that nihilism, that nihilistic viewpoint, Charvaka. At the same time, person who hold that sort of view, nihilistic view, refer Rishi. Rishi means sage. So, as a person, respect, consider as a philosopher. But their philosophy, nihilistic philosophy, so criticize, even condemn. So make a distinction. The person, as a human being, must respect. But their view, wrong view, so criticize. So that's the concept of secularism, Indian secularism. So since respect, ancient sort of nihilist, so today's modern time, those people who have no sort of faith, non-believer, we must respect them. So that is the secularism. According to India, secularism respect all religions, including non-believers' viewpoint. Non-believers. So I usually, try to promote that kind of secularism. If you have religion, very good. If you have no religious faith, all right, but be nice person, sensible person. So that, again, related with inner quality, like that. So now here, about religions. One time in Amritsar, we had one religious conference, interfaith sort of conference. One Sufi philosopher, he mentioned, he start, the way explained, he start 3 questions. What is self? First question. Second question, whether that self beginning or not. Third question, whether that is self and or not. 3 questions. I thought it is really very nice to begin, to start, in order to make distinction, different sort of traditions. So the first question, what is self? Except Buddhism, all theistic religion or non-theistic religion, that means Sankhya, one part of Sankhya philosophy, that's ancient Indian Hindu tradition. Then Jainism, non-theistic religion, including these 2, all believe self, something independent from this body, really owner of this body and mind. So body change, the same owner. So particularly those, I think they all sort of non-Buddhist traditions, even you see after death, something go to heaven or hell, that's a soul. And then those, as the ancient Indian tradition, believe rebirth. Beside this body and mind, there must be something which take life after life, which go life after life. So that we call Atma, or soul. Only Buddhism say no such independent, separate identical identity, such as soul, not there. Self is there, I is there, it's just designated on the combination of body and mind. So since it's the I or self designated on the body and mind, so we can easily say male self, female self, or old self, or young self, like that. If self is something completely sort of separate,
independent
from the body and mind, then difficult to say soul, male or female, old, young, difficult. So obviously, body change, self also change. Young self, old self, sick person, healthy person, go like that. So, from the answer of first question, 2 divisions: Buddhism, rest of the non-Buddhism. Now the question, second question, whether there is beginning or not about the self. Those religions which believe creator, then there is beginning of self. Only after creator creates our life, then that's the beginning. According to Christian, this very life is the first life, because this very life created by God. So that concept also very, very powerful. Very nice. So the more, I said, the closeness feeling towards God. there is more sort of what should I say, desire or more enthusiasm to follow God's sort of path. That is love, compassion, forgiveness. And also those, according theistic religion, God is everything, absolute, independent. We totally depend on God. Right? So, God truly Father. And then, according to your, when we develop faith, you totally submit to God. So that view is actually a similar effect which Buddhist concept of anatma, selflessness. You see, that concept, the aim or purpose of that concept is reduce self-centered attitude. So the single-pointed faith towards God, towards Creator, same effect, reduce self-centered sort of grasp feeling. Right. Like that. So very good. To some people, of course, that way of approach is much more sort of forceful, very effective. Then those non-theistic religious tradition, according to them, the Jainism, also the Sangha, one part of Sangha, whether they accept beginning or not, that I don't know very clearly. Do you know something? 가서도.
그래, 지든 제법 요 말했어.
제법 요 말 봐. I mean, no creator. So things according to law of causality. But whether there is beginning or not, the self or atma. No clear. I don't know. I don't know. Number of occasions I have sort of opportunity to exchange Jain sort of philosopher, Jain practitioner, Jain monk, Jain nun. Oh, wonderful people, wonderful people. I quite often is telling one my story. Little bit of jokes all among the Jain practitioner, two groups. One completely naked. One they just because of the white clothes.
White cloth.
One time in New Delhi, one Jain master sort of, I know that late master, wonderful. He totally sort of submitted about religious harmony, interfaith service, and also for peace. So after his death, his follower built one temple. So the opening ceremony of that temple, they invited me. I went there. One Jain master, completely naked. He just sit. My seat just behind him.
Next to him.
I really developed admiration. Such a sort of courage. Otherwise, in the public sort of public meeting, completely naked, everything demonstrated. So a little bit sort of difficult. But you see, he such a sort of discipline, no bother. I really admire his such sort of devotion, devoted by one's own faith. So I didn't pay much about his secret thing. But my liaison officer from Ministry of External Affairs, a very nice person, we always joking. So after that meeting, I asked him whether you have darshan. Darshan means
blessing. Vision, blessing through vision.
Whether you have darshan that. that thing, he say yes, yes. Looks, you see, he really pay attention about that part. So anyway, the Jainism, really wonderful. And their life really carried very strictly non-violent sort of way. Very, very wonderful. And their life, simplicity, they didn't really weaken our body. Just because of the maintain, the sustenance. Never luxuries. But meantime, a lot of businessmen are actually Jain. Very rich, many rich families basically come from Jain. And anyway, so according to this tradition, I don't know the exact sort of answer, whether there is a beginning or not about self. Now, as far as Buddhism is concerned, in order to investigate whether there is a beginning or not about self, you must investigate whether there is a beginning or not about mind, because the concept of self designated on the combination of mind and body. Of course, both mind and body, there are grosser level of body and mind, more subtler level, very, very subtle level, but very subtle level, then even this body also continue. But grosser level of body, I think the concept of human being on grosser level. So there is end. So the continuation mind of human mind is go. It goes all of that. The real substantial continuation of mind is always there. So there are quite often, you see, people raise question: if Buddhism do not accept self, then who is who is taking rebirth, life after life? So that's a misunderstanding. Buddhists say, when Buddhists say no soul, just independent, absolute, unchanging self, that kind of soul does not exist. But mere self, on the combination of body and mind, is there. It continues. So the subtler level, body and mind, both continuously. But more grosser level, then of course, then the real, I think the main sort of the basis of sentient being is continuation of mind. So when we investigate whether there is beginning or not about self, then we must investigate beginning, whether there is beginning or not about the mind. So now here, Buddhist epistemology, and also some other, you see, investigation. Then the conclusion is mind also is momentarily changing. Since the momentarily changing, anything which momentarily changing must be based on its own causes. 그래서 계지 직배 등유도 깨야 돼. 루브루의 균이지 잡아 모임바. 랑 계지기 주체를.
And furthermore, Buddhists understand that any phenomena that is subject to change is by definition dependent upon its causes and conditions. And furthermore, the fact that phenomena come into being as sharing this nature of momentariness, that is not created by some other third condition, but rather the very condition or cause that created it in such nature. in a momentary nature, transient nature.
So now, like any other the phenomena which is momentarily changing, there must be causes and conditions. And among the cause, substantial cause, cooperative causes. So without a substantial cause, even cooperative causes there, it cannot produce the effect.
Result, no.
So there must be a substantial cause. So mindless substance, it is sort of substantial cause, similar sort of
Pattern, no?
pattern. Then phenomena such as mind, mere experience, mere cognitive, no form, no color. So its substantial cause must be same nature. The material can be cooperative causes, but never be substantial causes of mind. So today's mind, the continuation of previous mind, this life's mind, continuation of previous lives of the mind. So that's why there is possibility, memory about past life. Different physical, different brain, but the same continuity of the mind. Memory is part of the mind. Mind, there are different levels, grosser level, more subtle level. So grosser level mind very much related with our
Brain.
physical, our brain. But more subtler, different. Now, for example, the awakening state, just this moment, we use very grosser level of mind, including senses of organs. Then dream state, senses of organs are no longer functioning. So only mental state. Within mental state, a little grosser. So dreams own sort of certain sort of sensorial thing there. Then further deeper, deep sleep without dream, the sixth mind or mental state still there. Go like that, people faint, even breathing stop. The subtle mind still there. Then the deepest sort of subtle mind is at time of death. So according to our viewpoint, those people who after death, clinically completed death, brain death, but still the body remains very fresh. Just I think last month, where in New Zealand, one Tibetan monk, when I reached there, New Zealand recently, I think 10th day or 9th day or 10th day after his death, his body still remained very fresh. So the local doctor, according to their sort of law, you cannot keep the dead body till decade. So according to law, they call doctor and check, thorough check. The doctor say dead. But at the same time, doctor surprised his body, no indication of decay. So it remained, I think altogether, 11 or 12 days, remain like that. Such case in India last more than 50 years. I think as far as I know, about 20, 30 cases. One longest case, the dead body remain 3 weeks, 4 weeks without decaying the body substance. So it is quite a new subject for scientists, brain specialists. Now we already have some program to carry research work about that. So now here one sort of complication is, till that actually happen, nobody knows who going to have that kind of sort of capacity. So we have to just wait. And then impossible to ask someone, please to die in order to our research work, carry research work. That also difficult. And also not very sure when we request someone. And if he or she accept that request, die, then if fail, then terrible. So just wait. So I think more than 10 years ago, as a result of our discussion with scientists, so some simple mission equipment put Dharamsala, our clinic there. So while that equipment there, nobody die who have that experience. When someone die or remain few days, then that equipment not there. Then since I think more than last 3 years, about 3 years, now that one better equipment now permanently remain Dharamsala, and a few people already trained how to handle these things, and also keep communication with scientists, mainly in America. So I think longest day, one great scholar, and actually the topmost was the supreme leader of Yellow Hair sect, Contradictory. In his case, about 3 weeks. So after I received information, his body remained fresh. Then I immediately asked the hospital where these equipment there, and also trained people there. So immediately I asked them, should go to South India. So they went. Then they went, and all the wires put on that dead body's head. Then some communication with some scientist in America. So I think next 10 days, I think, more than 10 days, they clearly recorded like that. So to the scientist, this is completely new phenomena. Buddhists who accept different level of consciousness, then there's sufficient sort of explanation how it happened, like that. So now there are some indication, even among the scientists. So there might be special energy beside this body, or very subtle, not depend entirely for this body. After functioning of this body cease, that subtle energy still can move more or less independently. So now that's the now question, the new sort of the question marks, the further investigation, like that. So in any way, from the Buddhist viewpoint, since a subtle mind, no beginning, otherwise the substantial cause must be some different sort of nature. That is impossible. So therefore, there's no beginning because of the substantial cause of mind, like that. So automatically, self, no beginning. That's the Buddhist answer. Then they question, third question, whether there's end or not. Those theistic, according to theistic religion, when they reach heaven or hell, I don't know whether remain permanently, not I don't know. But in any way, in the heaven, permanently remain, that's very good, wonderful. If go to hell, then permanently remain there, oh, that's quite terrible. So I really don't know. Then also about Sangha philosophy. Out of 24 factors,
Factors of existence. Factors of existence.
So only two things. So,
according to Samkhya taxonomy of reality, which accept 24 factors of existence, out of these, two, the primal substance and the intellect, which is the self, these two are understood to be ultimate or absolute truths, then the remaining being relative phenomena.
So, after sort of reach moksha, when they dashirgi kibu, so namju samalo so jiwe imachi rangshi di she yu zane, ene ta taba namju taba tim chinche.
So according to So according to Samkhya philosophy, the process of liberation occurs in the sense that while we remain deluded, we tend to confuse all the conventional relative phenomena, which are in reality manifestations of the two, the primal substance. We tend to see these manifestations to be real. And once we recognize their ephemeral nature, their relative nature, and recognize these to be just pure manifestations coming out of the primal substance, then the self, which is the intellect, will come to recognize that, and then the self then dissolves into the primal substance. And so that is how the enlightenment, the liberation or salvation. Sorry, the manifestations dissolve, and only the primal substance and the self remains.
So then afterward, what happened, I don't know. Now as far as Buddhism is concerned, now two school of thought, except one part of Vivashik school of thought, out of 18 subdivisions. I think one or two believe after Mahaparinirvana, then Buddha's mind cease. So automatically Buddha's self also cease. Except these school of thought, the all remaining Buddhist school of thought believe or reasoning the existence of mind, no counterforce. So there's no reason cease that. The cessation possible, cease possible because of counterforce, like that. So therefore, the all rest of Buddhist school of thought say, no beginning, no end. So that's the answer for three questions. So here you get the idea, differences in the philosophical field. And the philosophical field, even within Buddhism, there are many different philosophical viewpoints. Some of them, of course, later Nalanda masters, they themselves also, you see, create certain sort of views. But some major sort of views, Buddha himself used to taught, like Chittamantra philosophical viewpoint and the Madhyamika viewpoint, both based on Buddha's speech, Buddha's teaching. So I usually telling people, these contradictory, important philosophical view taught by one teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni himself. So that different contradictory philosophy taught by single person, they're not due to his own confusion. He himself not very sure. Then one day he taught this, next day taught a different thing. Certainly not that way. Enlightened person must know. Then he deliberately taught contradictory philosophy in order to create more confusion among his students. That also not the case. The compassionate Buddha. So you see, such things impossible. So then question is, why Buddha taught contradictory philosophy? The answer, only answer is because among his followers there are different meditative positions. So one philosophical viewpoint is simply not sort of sufficient to variety of people, different meditative positions. Therefore, Buddha compelled, teach or taught a different philosophical viewpoint according to their mental sort of situation, like that. So what we learned from there? Yes, to say, you see, I think in the past, at least, I think the 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion, among such people, naturally, different location in Arab world, Asia, like that. You see, the ancient time in Egyptian, also the Daksik or Iran, like that. And then kasa Hindu Kush kasa.
Hindu Kush Valley. Indus Valley.
Indus Valley sort of philosophical sort of the viewpoints or civilization. So Egyptian civilization, Chinese civilization, and then kasa Indus Valley civilization. Different location, different climate, different way of life. So naturally, due to different environment, certain sort of, I think in a certain level, some differences, the way of thinking. So therefore, different sort of traditions develop. It is necessary. Even today, I said, to some people, the concept of God is so powerful, very effective, very, very helpful. To some people, the law of causality is so much sort of suitable, their view. So, different religious view develop. It's necessary, and it is helpful. It worked. So therefore, the important is, what is the purpose of these different philosophy? Then say, concept of God, in order to strengthening practice of love, compassion, forgiveness, tolerance, self-discipline, contentment, these things. The philosophical viewpoint, another sort of viewpoint, law of causality. Same. If you do good things, you get positive result. If you do bad things, you get negative result. So through that way of approach, restrain harming other. And through that way, try to develop practice of love, compassion. So same purpose, according to different mental disposition. So when I participated in interfaith service, I always make clear differences, fundamental differences. Then all these different philosophical viewpoint, different way of approach, but same goal, better human being, sensible human being, compassionate human being. So no problem. So that's important, we should know. And one time, I often used to making or sharing one story. Many years ago, Argentina, one meeting, some scientists, some religious leader, Christian, and myself, and I think some Hindus also there. And then the scientist, one Chilean, I was told he was the one teacher of late Francisco Varela's teacher, one famous scientist, brain scientist. No? So he mentioned at our meeting, he physicist, quantum physicist, and he mentioned I should not develop attachment towards his own scientific field. I think that is really great teaching. Immediately I felt, oh, I'm Buddhist, but I should not develop attachment towards Buddhism, because attachment develop, then your view becoming biased. With that kind of biased view, then your own religion is the best. So through that way, the concept of one religion, one truth develop. Through that way, there is possibility of fundamentalism. Of course, the religious conflict, most cases in ancient time and even today, I think the main reason is political power or economic interest, not religion itself. But at the same time, there are people who really believe one's own religion is the religion, only truth. So others are sinful, something like that. So these are due to the attachment, biased. Once our mind becomes biased, then you can't see the others objectively, like that. So when I was in Tibet, I think I myself also a little bit biased. After come to India, then meet a lot of sort of people from different tradition, like late Thomas Merton, and also the Anil Kasa.
Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa.
Oh, Mother Teresa. Like that. So really, see, they confirm me. All major religious traditions have same potential to produce such a wonderful people. So that's the purpose. So then I really develop genuine admiration and appreciation towards all these major religious traditions. That's very important. So here people who basically, you see, they, I think, follow of different tradition. I mean, traditionally, America, non-Buddhist country. So whenever I give a lecture on Buddhism in Europe or in America, I always emphasize your tradition is basically Judeo-Christian sort of tradition. So it is better to keep your own Judeo-Christian faith, and to some extent Muslim. Buddhism is something very new. So therefore, better to keep your own tradition, faith, rather than change. Religious faith is not like fashion. Fashion, okay, today your hairstyle, something different. The next year, another sort of style, okay, doesn't matter. But religious matter, not like that. So be cautious. Better, safer, keep one's own tradition. Again, I have one example. In early 60s, see, we Tibetan refugee community freshly arrived in India. Then there are a lot of difficulties. So one Tibetan lay official, Tibetan government lay official, he's posting 59, posting very near border. So he had opportunity his whole family brought to India. So then soon he passed away, and his wife, and with small children, 2 or 3 children remain. Very difficulties. At that time, see, a few thousand Tibetan, our way of earning is road work. Very difficult. So one day she came to see me and told me her sort of stories, all these difficulties. Then she told me she received immense sort of help from a Catholic relief service and some other sort of Christian organization. Then even her children also, you see, take care for education, some of these Christian missionary. So then she told me, for this life, now she become Christian. Now next life, she will be Buddhist. So that's a clear sign of confusion. And then also you see some my Christian friend, they're so much attracted towards Buddhism. Then later, one lady, I noticed, one Polish lady, very old, she really, you see, they accept Buddhism is her sort of new religion. But around the time of her death, see, it seems to see concept of God constantly to come reflect on her mind. So that also sign of confusion. So it is better to keep one's own tradition. However, among millions of people, some people, one way, have some interest about spirituality. At the same time, not satisfy your own traditional sort of spirituality. Then, if that individual finds some Eastern sort of tradition, including Buddhism, more sort of suitable, more sort of effective, then okay, to choose that faith. But in the meantime, you must keep your respect towards your traditional religion. That's very, very important. I often telling Mongolians in Mongolia and also Himalayan range, some Christian missionaries, you see, while they helping health field, education field, they also some carrying some work for conversion. One time I met some Korean missionaries. They carry some work for conversion. So I told them, face to face, directly, this is a Buddhist country, Buddhist community. It is better to keep their own religion. I told them. So like that, the country traditionally follow one particular religion. It is better to keep that. And meantime, some individual, it is exception. But meantime, must keep respect. Now about Buddhism. As I mentioned it before, the foundation of Buddhadharma, Four Noble Truths. And that's common. Theravada tradition, or Pali tradition, Sanskrit tradition, all same. That's the foundation. Based on law of causality. Buddhist terminology here says Pattidsamupad. There are two levels of meaning. One Pattidsamupad is the law of causality. Another level of meaning of Pattidsamupad is interdependency. So the Pattidsamupad, in sense, cause and effect, that's only phenomena which momentarily changing. Then second level of Pattidsamupad, interdependency, that's everything. including Shunyata itself, or is it the Kasa, Dharmatakaya, Buddha's Dharmatakaya, Monukasuri.
Natural body of the
What was Sanskrit word?
Svabhivika.
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 Including these permanent sort of phenomena, not depend on causes and condition, but depend on other factor, interdependency, like that. So that is mainly according to mathematical philosophy. The rest of the Buddhist philosophy, they put this in sense,
Cause and effect.
Depend on cause and conditions, like that. So now I think I think this. Please raise a book.
You have a copy of the text, yeah.
So page short on Jim.
Do what to
Do. Salama says to you should be. Mari, go to Kobje. 98. Tibetan.
So the English translation is on page 39.
English translation.
No, 39.
This text, wrote by a great scholar or practitioner, great bhikshu of Nalanda, the disciple, one of the main disciple of Shantarakshita. Shantarakshita, I think the 8th century and 9th century, invited to Tibet by Tibetan Emperor Chisung Dezen, and also with Bama Sambhawa. So the real sort of the real person who introduced Buddhadharma in Tibet was the Shantarakshita, scholar, Nalanda scholar, and a bhikshu. So he gave ordination, he gave teaching, and also helped translation. According to some historian, when he reached Tibet, very old, according to some historian, over 70, nearly 80 years old. But he, according to some sort of historian, he himself tried to learn Tibetan. In any way, he advised the Tibetan emperor that you should make available all Buddhist teaching in Tibetan language. So all these texts is translated into Tibetan. So since then, few generations, altogether about 300 volumes, all translated from India, except I think about 10 volumes translated from Chinese language. Otherwise, all come from India, either Sanskrit or Pali, and in some cases, maybe Nepalese, like that. So he, Shantarakshita, great philosopher, Madhyamika philosopher, and also same time, great logician. In his writing, we can see great logician and a philosopher. The Kamalashila, his disciple. So on the request of Tibetan Emperor Chisung Dezen, he wrote this text. Gurum Tamenande Titu. Chayek Gumanzabanashin, Nge TV,
So in the colophon of the third book of the stages of meditation, which has 3 books, book 1 and book 2 and book 3, in the colophon of the book 3, there is a explicit reference to the fact that this text was written at the behest, at the request of the emperor.
So now the name of the text, Gumrim Parba, the Gomberimba, Gumrim Tong to Parsum Yevan and Parpache.
So the title of the text is Stages of Meditation, Book 2, because it reference to the book 1 and 2 and 3.
다 Gom said, Gomberimba, so Gom Rim said, do you Gom's left you?
So the term stages of meditation in Tibetan is composed of 2 syllables, Gom and Rim. And Gom refers to meditation, and stages is Rimpa. And when we look at the Tibetan term Gom, which is a translation for meditation, it is a very active term, which already connotes certain agency on the part of someone doing something.
So that Gom Suzanne, Combercheva, Drivercheva. That Comshing Driver Chiludella, Javacheni, Gunzen Toyagone, Tandala, Lochini, Chinin Raji, Timing Jagon said. 다 제대로 아니 리식 미주벌 제대로 된들이야 로 한이 줘야지 될 조금 세.
So the term Gom or meditation here is an active term which refers to actually a process involving a cultivation of familiarity with a chosen object. And what is that process? The process involves 2 kinds. One is a discursive or analytic process, which involves the application of inquiry and critical application of reason, through which one cultivates a deeper familiarity with a chosen topic or a fact. And so that is one type of approach, one aspect of the approach. The other aspect of the approach is not to apply investigation or analysis, but rather to place one's mind settled upon, say for example, a conclusion that one has reached as a result of analysis. Then one ceases analysis but places one's mind settled and single-pointed upon that concluded point. So that's the second type of second aspect of meditation.
Shanyang Gom Sadlia, Shanam Gomasluna, Ninja Gomba, Taba Gomasluna, Gomje Lotte Namjalia Rang Loti, Digan, Di Namjel Ki. Talia, Shanam Gomasari, Gomje turn did the Shiva Chadorba, Ninja the Chabasluna. Chazanga, Gomje Shiva Ting or Rang Loti, Guam, Loting or Kivati, Shanam Gomas, Shiva Nabakoma. Diam Midawada, Donda, Desert Teddy, Kushiva Marva, Ko Gomje Lodrovada, Gomje, Gojolosa, Gomje Yudi Medizane, take Goms Ludizane, Zindang Yuduchane. Shiji Lu turn to Zindang Yuduchane. Midawa in Samba, Dame in Samba Chiki, or Gomiachi. Daine Pena Midawa Communizane, Midawalia. Geji Nibe Tusu, Geji Tambo, Gasbachi, Midawachidoa. The Dirisha Page Kakwana Bachaviota. The Geji Tambo Rundusu, Geji Tambo, Jigbetan Yudi, and Midawachidoa. Deep Page driven of the Chagus, Geji Tambo Rundula, Jigbetan Yudu, Jiggy. 계지 탐구 정규리야 삼대야지 직도게 직배 덩이도 예바다 직배 덩이도出什么 캐스도가 로를 치단도 캐스도게 다 다음에 공스는 각변남제로 샤인 거예요. 그봐. 변은 분복 공사하시려면 변은 안데 맞아 사지디나라 변은 란지 매바디 요르바 란지 요마리 란지 매바 인자 란지 매바디 요르바 자 란지 매바디 턴로리야 샤야도가 란지 매베 턴로를 쉐두자네 각자 란지 연나 나도 롱알레 미나와 임베 균생기 란지 매바 떠야도가 자 다들 란지 매바 떠서도 주베고는 로를 시작입니다 각자 란지 세고는 로를 시작도가
Furthermore, there are also different ways in which one can understand the distinctions within the forms of meditation. Say, for example, if someone is meditating on compassion or cultivating devotion, then in these cases, although we can call these compassion and devotion as object of our meditation, but in actual fact, they are not object in the sense of content of our mind. Rather, what we are trying to do is we are seeking to cultivate our own mind in that form. So, for example, we are trying to experience compassion. We are trying to cultivate our mind in such a way that it takes on the tone of a compassionate feeling. Similarly, when we meditate on faith or devotion, we are not taking that as an object in the sense of a content, but rather we are turning our mind into that so that it takes on that flavor or tone. So that's one type of practices. Then in contrast, you have, say, other types of meditation where you take the meditation object as a content. For example, meditation on impermanence or meditation on selflessness or no self. In these cases, we are trying to cultivate an understanding of impermanence or selflessness, and so that in the process of meditation we are trying to apprehend the true meaning of that object. Now, of course, when we talk about meditation on impermanence, this can again take different forms. For example, we can reflect upon impermanence in the sense of something that has ceased to exist, something that was there before but has ceased to exist. Say, for example, the cessation of the first moment during the time of the second instance. That's a form of understanding an impermanence, but that here again approaches primarily from a negative aspect, because it is by means of negation. But one can also meditate upon the meaning of emptiness in a more kind of a less, by means of negation. For example, recognizing the fact that this particular phenomena has the transient nature, so that it has such a nature that it is, momentariness. Meditating upon impermanence in the form of momentariness does not approach impermanence purely via negation approach. However, if you take the example of meditation on selflessness or anatman, no self, then the approach is primarily by means of negation. You are simply negating the self-existence with relation to the chosen object. Now, how do we approach, say, a pure absence in the form of a negation? For example, in this room, we can correctly say there is no elephant. So, and just as we can say there is no elephant in this room, we can also develop a knowledge of this absence of elephant. Now, the absence of elephant is true, and how do we know this? Is only through negation of the presence of elephant. So you can see how knowledge and the mind kind of engages with relation to the truth, and some of the truth can only be accessed by approach of a negation. So this is where again one needs to understand, when we talk about meditation, what type of meditation, what form of meditation we are talking about, what type, and what approach, what kind of approach we are talking about.
Yeah. Hada Quams Lituzane Quamje Tuntella Lopa Nebuchani Shugo Jig Zawa Chemicuba Rangangi Tunte Talia Lodipige Kasore Tab Dishu Combat Dogi Ting Morta Tinzana use Shavine Da Loting or Giving da Kandaji Zawa Chemicuba Rangangi de Kasore Quamje Tunti Morundodachi.
So, in brief, when we talk about the meaning of the term meditation, and the Tibetan term Gom particularly, we are talking about a process by which it enables us, through a process of cultivation, to become closer to a chosen object, to become more familiar with that chosen object, so that you reach a point where, say for example, if it is a cultivation of compassion, that you reach a point where simply by recalling compassion, you're able to generate that without much exertion. Similarly, if it is an understanding of impermanent or understanding of no self, where you take the object as a content, then through meditation, what you are seeking is to reach a point where your understanding of no self or impermanence will arise without exertion, by simply focusing turning your thought on the topic. So that is the meaning of meditation.
다 telea gode disungudwa tang lungsta lo moche tang gode didwa 금들한테 주저디 탐제 팀의 고방 임벌이 탐제 팀의 고방 세야디 교도 깨는 되는 연구를 아다 디기 로 코살리티 살 샤인고요. 제가 되게 쉬어야 되기 안데 균제기 땡지살 샤 땡지리야 균제기 땡지살 지다 가사데 땡에 딱ပဲ땡지살 지 니셰 다 안다 당구디 균제기 땡지송니 디 되게 쉬는 시리 담바시 영향이 심을 따디 차대.
So we now begin with the text, and I'm not going to bother reading the entire text word by word. So right at the beginning of the text, Kamalashila identifies what is the object of aspiration in this context of a practitioner, and he identifies the attainment of omniscient state of Buddhahood to be the highest aspiration of this particular practitioner. And then in the opening section of the text, he explicitly points out that the attainment of this highest aspiration can only come about as a result of causes and conditions. And here he is right at the beginning presenting the Buddha's teaching on dependent origination in terms of the first level of meaning, which is dependence in terms of causes and conditions. And later on, he will explain the second level of meaning of dependent origination, which is dependence in terms of dependent designation or imputation or dependent designation. And so of these two levels of meaning of dependent origination, the first level, which is dependence in terms of causes and condition, really constitutes the basis and the foundation upon which the Buddha's teaching on the Four Noble Truths is based.
다 담바 시수야 돼. 좀더 되게 초직네 denshi ngol dabas samba chikche tene denshi chawala dabas samba chikche tene chawan jebudu chawala dabas desen samba chikche sumsung kwa din nanga chumure sha denshi ngol dabas ya degi shi ni su shamata ure 다음은 담바시 나고 고베다 버서야디 시니 주신 한데 예배실에서도 디다 말이디 이네 동엔 제루 임버디 다 동에 차라 두 고든 시기에 이두산에 동에 제루 임바디 실이 하르다. 자, 람데 다다 규르면야 로디 강리야 아니 턴텔라 양의 양도 재신 권백관에 디브르잖아 턴텔라 산나 턴야 여드버지 춘이로 지나 람데인스야게 조유 던다로고 시내주 레고도가 실 산나 중룽게 똑바 권배 아니 타만 아니 니나 누베 아니 산나 턴야지 실면 람데인 하면 봐 다가는 신기 가시오를 뭐뭐 강라 거래 년부터 간다 년부터인데 예배차네 제루 임버지 셰샬면은 고딩 영화 걸면도 와 저장가 담바시 당구디 시 남샤도 숨에서 그렇지 신외변 내수디 있어 대신 뭐를 대변 내가 올라 랭니다 랑도께지 맵체 되네 르번이버들 레이르산에 대시 자원을 대봤을때 다 동네 사디 빵과야지 아니 진짜 인도산에 빵제 동네를 차라먹고요 하리 동네 라과다 먼저 신신버리디 동네 차시 차원의 시에버 개체물에 송의 동네 시에버 차세서 동네 차시 차원의 시 인도산에 차시 차의 동네 디디기 자외 교 가르치기버 디디 아니 군중 자주 전에 군중 50에 커도라 제부 동네디 마용야 된다라 대교 군중 아니 과고를 사게 군중 방을 찾았지 다 동네기 군중 방배 락질라 동네 녀월 시에 자와지 토빈 거야 아래 다 대니 먼저 차리스 대 군중 방배 차외 연대의 영어라 군중 계지 나마 계지 침에 두서 가치 베게지 말에 계지 당부 계지 입에 두서 시버디 계지 말에 녀부 컨시 마제나 계지 무튼이 깨돼야지 녀부 깨베 또기 아니 가르야 지라 자와스요 저나 딘데인도 대대로 자와된 것도 제발라 제주 뭐부터 간다 덤된지 아니 깨고레스 람 건버차 서티소이 말 대단 건배 아니 제부 가려 용거스라나 동해 땅도 빵 군중 땅도 빵 드리는서는 동해 시eb을 차요 말이 군중 빵을 차요 말이 고봉은 람제 대봉도 제 고봉도 제스비 제래야 아니 알라 고봉도 차지다 아니 가서 우리 되게 람댕도 차요 말이 콤바 타르치면 니가 그랬어.
So now if we look at the teachings on the Four Noble Truths by the Buddha, we see that in the scripture, Buddha taught the Four Noble Truths in 3 ways, in a set of 3 in a set of 3 kind of teachings. In the first context, Buddha simply talked about the nature of these 4 truths, and in this case, he says this is the truth of suffering, this is the truth of origin, this is the truth of cessation and the path and so on. So on this first level, what we see is that Buddha is speaking about the nature of reality, the reality of suffering and the reality of suffering and its causes. Now here, the cessation may not be real for us in our ordinary state. And similarly, the true path may not be real in our ordinary state, but the basis for both the cessation and true paths is part of our reality. For example, if the afflictions and the causes and conditions of the suffering are not ultimately removable from our mental continuum, then there is no basis for the possibility of attainment of cessation. So the fact that we possess the possibility of removing these afflictions is part of our reality. Similarly, within us, although we do not possess the true path as part of our reality, but we do possess within us, within our mental continuum, the potential for actualization of genuine insight, true insight into the nature of reality, without which there won't be any path emerging in us. So the point is that when Buddha identified each of these truths, he is speaking primarily at the level of understanding of nature of reality. So the first one is the really ground. Now, on this level, or in this context, there is no moral evaluations about what is right and what is wrong, simply a recognition and understanding of nature of reality. Now, in the second context, then Buddha talks about the specific functions of the knowledge of these four truths. So in this case, Buddha says, with relation to suffering, we must understand the nature of suffering. We must bring about the end. We must eliminate the origin of suffering. We must actualize the cessation of suffering, and we must cultivate the truth of the path. So here, Buddha is, when explaining the functions of the knowledge of these Four Noble Truths, then evaluations come in. For example, since suffering is something that we do not wish, the causes that lead to suffering are things that need to be abandoned and eliminated. Since true cessation is what we wish, the conditions that lead to that is something that needs to be cultivated. And so with relation to, say, for example, understanding the nature of reality and nature of suffering, on the gross level, we do recognize sufferings that are more evident, painful experiences. But when Buddha says one must understand the nature of suffering, he's also talking about the subtle levels of the nature of suffering as well. And the cessation of the truth of the cessation is literally the imprint that we attain after the application of the true path. So the cessation comes about as a result of the application of the true path, and the true path, application of the true path necessarily involves application of powerful antidotes against the origins of suffering, particularly the more afflicted states of mind. And so through the application of these powerful antidotes, when we are able to eliminate the afflictions, then the resulting imprint of that is the attainment of true cessation. So that's why Buddha said suffering must be known and understood, origins of suffering must be eliminated, cessation must be actualized, path must be cultivated. Then finally, in the third context, Buddha talked about the results of that kind of knowledge and practice. So he says, with relation to each of the four truths, he says there is no more sufferings to be known. There is no more origins of suffering to be eliminated. There is no more cessation to be actualized. There is no more path to be cultivated, because once you have attained the liberation, then there is no further need to cultivate each of these.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. 다지네 담바시 캐주 미자소 주주 선이 den시리야 캐주 시시 현송 다디 뒤체르 직디 패지 동에데베 캐주 시스레샤 미다 동에 동 다메 시디 다 미다 시디 차메다고 시거래 얘나야 차메다고 된지 어떤 게 된지샤 미다도 동 다메 시 다전에 마찬에 이니 교군중 raptiken 전에 군주된 배치시 되는 과거시와 단음 민중선에 과거된 체주시 되는 람르고 주거인지 선에 람르고 주거인지 선에 람지된 배치시 전에 미다서 주주 송도가 다 되게 다도 동에 되버디 시부디 첩첩 차인 거야. 다 안다 군주 때문에 두 군주 rapti스다 간다 시 두이 왕게 얘는 데뷔 넘주 나서 용거 여버 드제 직송 거야. Then goba shiwa janum sayadegi, and Rangshingi chawa mayimba. Nyambu gebe topki goba, gokchi, gokchi gebe gwane, and gobas the duchi tada ningsi sor, tada tas chikshtua, tada chisi sorchi. Yugi nyambu gebe topki pa ta gogwe gwane chasuma sarchi. Right? Gogwa. Shiva sayadi, tandu shiva. Di shiva di negu kita dungi shiva zamayimba, shiva tanumba. Any ko pigi lara kimilundu cheba yindu minjung. Di tenshi soso su kyaju ji yao sungwa di. Ta lam ribu chuba ngijis luzane, lam dreje, ta tabdres, lam. Rigbas levdu paji mishiba mayinge, yudi nesu chimashi rigdenge, lam rigba. Rig khasa rig chara inane gyumzendema. Di rig khasa rig rigba re. Lam rigba sayadi. Lu rig rigdre. Kawar jani rig. Lu rig chara inane shebe kada nyambu rigdi 가수를 강기 년부치 뒤 동다디 리신 셰베 텔 뇽한테 시게 인자네 리버스 디자네 되거든요. 야 리가사 리베 가사디 텐시 리베 리디 자리 있는니 그 세멜로고 요래 세멜로야 잡전 세마고 요래 리버고 요래 드리 이미지잖아요. 균센데마스 저래 자네 자도와 람 리버 애는 거래 모르디 냠술렘베 직자 처지심이 되잖아요. 좁아. 될 때네 방적 가야로 들래. 아니 가서래. 냠부디 방적 탕성 제도 요이 되잖아요. 민지.
Furthermore, if we look at the Buddha's teachings on the Four Noble Truths, each of these Four Noble Truths were taught on the basis of recognizing their specific characteristics. So each of these Four Noble Truths are characterized by four features. For example, with respect to suffering, there is impermanence, dissatisfaction or unsatisfactoriness, emptiness, and no self. With relation to the origin of suffering, the characteristics are cause, origin, a constant arising and condition. So these are kind of various aspects of understanding the origins, from the point of view of the different functions, different aspects of the effects which correspond to different elements of the functions of the cause. So it's a kind of a multiple way of understanding origin from different angles. And then with relation to cessation, the truth of cessation, the four characteristics are: the first is ceasing, second is tranquility or tranquil, and third is excellence, and the fourth is definite emergence. So again here, what is being pointed out is that by using this present term, ceasing rather than ceased, the point is being made that it is this is not a kind of cessation where something has naturally come to an end, but rather it is a form of cessation where through application of antidote, the cessation has been actively brought about. So that is the point being made. And the reference to tranquility or peace is to indicate that this is not just a temporary respite, but rather a kind of a lasting, permanent pacification. And then the third reference to excellence is to indicate that because of this permanent nature of the cessation, it is excellent. And finally, the fourth category, characteristics indicate the notion of some kind of definite emergence from this the state. And then finally, with relation to the path, The four characteristics are, the first one is the path itself, and second is a knowledge. But the Tibetan word for the second is rigpa. If it has no double postfix, then it becomes knowledge. But if we use the postfix sa, then it becomes something that is associated with reason. So it can be read as reasonable, or and then, so in some sense, grounded in reason. And the third characteristics is cultivation, because it is something that is cultivated. And finally, again, the final category is a liberator, or a factor for freedom. So here again, the path is an active agent that brings about that liberation. So you can see that there is a great importance in Buddha's characterization of these different aspects of the truths to indicate the various aspects of understanding of these.
Yeah. So the impermanence, the out of four of the first noble truth. The impermanence, now here in the sense momentarily changing, never stand still. That not obvious us. We usually say, oh, this whole such sort of year built, so this is quite old, something like that, or new, like that. That is our sort of that perception on the level of just appearances. At the same time, you see because after some time, after constructed, eventually, you see, few years, few decades, some cracks, some different things you see happen. So that's obvious change, obvious impermanence. That now use our sense, reasoning. Obvious sort of change must take place, say, after a few decades, some sort of obvious sort of change come. Or for example, tree, autumn, some different color, then all leaf fell. So that obvious change must take place, say, within month. The obvious change within month must take place within days. That within hours, within minute, within second. So unless momentarily changing there, unless that kind of nature there, obvious change never take place. So reasoning, obvious change. Then thinking, oh, there must be the substantial level momentarily changing. So never stand still. That's impermanence in subtle level. That understanding directly opposes Takwara
So that understanding of that level of subtle impermanence directly opposes and challenges our distorted perceptions of things as having permanence. So in relation to the four characteristics of the First Noble Truth, there are also four distorted views. And the first distorted view is the views of things as permanent.
Now that leads, why momentarily changing? As I mentioned earlier, not because third factor, but because its own sort of producer itself produce that nature. So that indicates
So this indicates that the whatever the effects, it is always dependent or under the power of its cause.
So now that's all phenomena. Even Buddha stage, Buddha's body momentarily changing. Buddha's mind also momentarily changing. Now here, Mita so Shibuti Shadadi, Dunge Tembe Kejusudua. So that Chejan Dunge Tembe want to change. Dunge Tembe di Keji Keji Jigwadi, Gui Shawan Janis Levdi, Dukunjung Shawan Chaswa.
So here, of course, so here, of course, when we are talking about impermanence, we are not talking about impermanence, out of context. We are talking about impermanence in the context of understanding the nature of suffering, the first noble truth. So here, since we are talking about impermanence in relation to that, then what is the cause to which the suffering is, under the power of, and suffering is conditioned by? And here we will be. That's where the second truth comes into the picture, which is the origin of the cause, origin of suffering.
So that means this body fully controlled by its causes. So causes ultimately ignorance. So anything which dominated by ignorance is suffering nature. So here the suffering in the level of third level, suffering of change, suffering of
conditioning, suffering of pervasive conditioning.
So now this mentioning the third level of suffering. So once we develop some kind of awareness, that nature, then no matter how beautiful our body, our sort of facility, even world, no matter how beautiful, good, but ultimately under dominance of ignorance. So that then develop sense of the desire to overcome that. So that's suffering, impermanence and suffering. Then selflessness. Here selflessness and
emptiness,
empty
and
selflessness. There is a different sort of interpretation. I think we can interpret this way. This emptiness. Emptiness means no independent existence of self, I. There are also two levels. One, as the non-Buddhist school of thought sort of believe there is independent, absolute oneness self. Does not exist that, number one. The second level are sort of natural sort of feeling when we say I and my body, my mind. There is some kind of impression. The self, something more independent and dominant, or because of the
controller,
owner of the body and mind. So there is some kind of sort of tendency, more or less independent self, not separate, but somewhere here, within the body, some kind of, independent self. So that kind of self is no longer exist, not there. Totally, because of that, does not exist. This is one thing. Then fourth, because of selfless. That is now, we can, I think, take interpretation. All phenomena are empty. So that shows this possibility to prove our ultimate sorrow, grasping feeling is ignorant, unrealistic. such independent existence, not there. So the feeling of grasping some independent existence is ignorant, baseless. So not only just mere ignorance, but distorted ignorance. So that is the, then I think it is important to know how that sort of grasping sort of feeling act as a basis of attachment, anger, hatred, fear, because of the pride.
Conceitedness.
All these destructive emotion based on that kind of sort of feeling. It is clear. And also some relation with permanence. Permanent sort of, because of that.
Object. Grasping onto some kind of enduring entity.
Now, for example, when we develop very strong sort of negative feeling towards someone, then after some time, if someone telling you, oh, that person is not that bad, or that person actually praising you, then that moment, the automatic sort of reaction is, oh, impossible. So that means you have the feeling that's something absolute, permanent. So within a short period, some positive thing, impossible to have, to exist. So there is tendency, when strong anger there, the tendency is something absolute and something permanent. So the awareness of impermanence reduces that. The awareness in the non-independent existence also reduces that. Then another level, of course, that's come later, I think tomorrow. So in any way, so these things. Then another sort of for mindfulness, body mindfulness. Investigate about this body. Looks good color, good shape, but if you open this blood and kasa, veins and kasa muscle. If you open, oh, terrible. I think this body looks nice, but open, oh, a lot of dirty things there. And also very delicate, isn't it? Very delicate. So I think nature accepts that delicate. So our brain, very delicate. So firstly, skull, cover. And then furthermore, this hair also protect our skull. I think nature process also you see arranged that way. So in any way, our body, no matter how beautiful, and also we always, because of cleansing survey, cleanse. And also some ladies cosmetics wear, cosmetic. But actually, dirty. This body is, very nature is dirty. And no matter how beautiful food come from here, dirty. These dirty things were made here, not outside. So actually, this body, precious body, actually making dirty things. And also, you see, this body is the basis of illness, basis of old age. Old age not come from outside, but this body itself gradually produce that. Illness, of course, the external, some causes, virus, these things there, but within body, there is place these can work. So thinking this line, then too much attachment, my body, reduce. And also impermanence, understanding impermanence. the too much attachment about body reduce. That mindfulness about body. Then mindfulness about feeling. So that directly involve kunjutaba.
The second truth, the truth of origin.
So painful experience develop anger. Pleasure experience develop attachment. Like that. So that brings the deeper understanding about second noble truth. Then mindfulness about mind. That that is in sort of mindfulness about mind. Eventually, you get the feeling, oh, only mind, no self, something independent. Self is mere designated on the continuity of the mind. So, some understanding, no longer existence of owner of the body and mind. That related with third noble truth. Now, on the basis of some awareness about these, deeper understanding, out of three mindfulness, then fourth mindfulness about phenomena. Now, how to deal?
So in this fourth practice of foundation of mindfulness with relation to phenomena or mental objects, then the practice of rejecting and affirmation comes.
So then, next four yandabonshi, tamanjashi yandabonshi da.
So next four are the four right, correct endeavors.
So naturally, when we develop some kind of deeper understanding and conviction develop, then the desire make effort to reduce these negative forces or negative thing and try to increase positive thing. That's the because out of 37, now this is the second category. And then through that tireless effort, then
So the next category relates to what are known as the four factors of meditative attainment.
다디 차진리야 아니 대서 옹봉아 다디 똑수 주변 이거 캐치했습니다. 다 대서 옹봉아 디 델레무도와 아니 파라면야라 게스야디 거니도 람그 똑베 니거리야 자대 통람도 공람도 자야 좀 버럽직 양나 내 당부베 니거네 양답에 초아 양답에 나 양답에 레지타 ስለ도 출입이 풍부 니니 계시셔야겠는다 physical or verbal action, physical action, mental action all carry with discipline, awareness. That's practice of Shila. Then some sort of, at least some period, concentrate fully. That's the part of samadhi. Then yang tawa toba. And karachi. That or dirty any shirk church. 세상은 나도 내 당부변 내거네 러버스는 냠내게 내디디 중줄 파괴람 깨야기 규체에 차네 바람스잖아 저기도 와. 내 당부변 내거네. 저다 창조 소등기 안데 디 람기 템바디 다 남샤 컨저스 냠내 지구 이거지 창조 소등디 셰. Did that? Number yonzo lo nyamere.
And the elements that are necessary for the practice of cultivating meditative attainments involve what are referred to as the 5 faculties, such as faith, wisdom, and so on. And then later, another list is the eightfold, Noble Eightfold Path. The Noble Eightfold Path, although in some texts is explained at the level of the realization of the advanced and noble beings, but one can also understand their practices in the context of beginner's stage. So for example, if you look at the elements of the Noble Eightfold Path, in essence, all of these 8 aspects of the Noble Path really relate with the 3 trainings: the training in morality, the training in meditation, and training in wisdom. So one can understand the practices of the Noble Eightfold Path in the context of a beginner's stage as well. So in any case, the 37 factors aspect of the path to enlightenment really explain in detail how the 4th noble truth, the cultivation of the path, is supposed to take place. And in this regard, there is no difference between all the Buddhist traditions, whether it is Theravada or the Mahayana and any other tradition. This is a common teaching to all the Buddhist traditions.
So sometimes you see people have this sort of impression. The Theravada tradition, Pali tradition, and the Sanskrit tradition, or Buddhist tradition is something separate. That's totally wrong. The Pali tradition is the basis of all Buddhist practice. Then further sort of, also the some special field practice, altruism, and more sophisticated philosophy about anattama theory. Then you see more explanation, more and detailed explanation in Sanskrit tradition. So it simply, the 3rd Noble Truth, explain more detail, particularly in Panchaparamita Sutra. Then accordingly, the practice or meditation of shunyata, that is 4th Noble Truth. So further explanation. And furthermore, the 4th Noble Truth about Arya Path, the subject side, more detailed explanation in another sutra, that is Tishishivinimbudo.
The teachings on the Tathagata Garpa, essence of Buddhahood.
So that, then you see more detailed explanation about Buddha nature. Very mind exists here, this moment. The potential of Buddhahood already there. So that we call Buddha seed or Tathagata Garba. So the something like the first stories, first level. First level, the Pali tradition. Then on top of that, the Sanskrit tradition, Sutriyana. Then further top, this part of Sanskrit tradition, the Tantriyana. So all must based on the Pali tradition, and particularly the Vinaya practice is very, very essential. Therefore, Buddha expressed, where Vinaya practice there, my teaching alive. Where no longer Vinaya practice there, my teaching no longer there. Buddha mentioned that. So Vinaya practice is the foundation of Buddhadharma. So in Sri Lanka, Thailand, Burma, Cambodia, very good practice of Vinaya. Although the Vinaya within Vivashik sort of school of thought, 18 division, then more kasuda. Do you understand? Zawe debashi.
Now, to the more abridged classification, four main classes.
Four main division. Tibetan tradition, mainly through Mula Sabasiddhivatam. And Chinese Bhikshu tradition and Vietnamese Dharmagupta tradition. The Theravada. So, Zaya Deva Shidhkarchik, Pageant Deva, Mongol Deva, any? Shidhamji Deva, Native Deva. Chikashas. Like that. So, now stop. So, see you again tomorrow.